favorite, this dude right here. He is just absolutely amazing. Like I said earlier, strap into your seats. David, help me. David's wife is going to help me. David Guerreso is going to come in and talk to us about caring. But my brief introduction about him, he's another person I met. He gave me an opportunity to come in and speak at Cox Automotive. And the topic was servant leadership. So when I got an opportunity to kind of turn this thing around and ask him to come in and speak, I knew out of the 5 modules that we teach in transformational leadership, I knew that David was one and not the caring module out of the box. He's going to tell you a little bit more about himself. You have his marketing material in your packet, so the last thing I'll say is help his wife, David Guerreso.
All right. I get the after lunch crowd. Does anybody have any particular issues with me getting really animated and loud? Nobody jumps, particularly up front. No, because I was going to say, like, maybe you want to switch with the folks in the back. Because I do have a tendency to get a little loud, a little animated, and I might yell a couple times. So if I do, I apologize in advance. I also like to tell stories. So I will be sharing some of that as well. So I get to talk about caring. Caring is a topic I'm particularly passionate about. As I told you in the beginning when I introduced myself, my mission is all about building transformative relationships. And I believe that in the workforce, that's missing in a lot of ways. We put a lot of emphasis on results. We put a lot of emphasis on deliverables. And yes, that is absolutely essential. We put a lot of emphasis on profit and the bottom line, and yes, that is the lifeblood of a business. We can't move on unless we're doing those types of things. But at the same time, what about the relationships? We heard relationships, already spoken up here. We talked about TALK. I thought that was a great acronym. Trust, access, like, know. All of that comes into what it means to care about people. So now I want to hear from you, though, first, before we dive deeper. What does it mean to you to care? Show of hands, go ahead and speak it out. Sir.
My name is Joseph Patterson, the also packing service. Caring is being a servant. And not even like that, being a servant, what you can do to help.
Excellent. Being a servant. What else do you have? Anybody? Sacrifice. Compassion. I like that.
Having consideration for others.
Having consideration for others.
Being sensitive.
Being sensitive.
Being engaged.
Being engaged. I like these are good answers. All right. So let's dive a little bit deeper and begin to unpack caring. Here are a few actions to demonstrate caring. And the way I like to try to remember this is we're going to put a little pep in our step. So I want to just kind of let you know, for those of you following along in the participant guide, I kind of changed the order. And you'll see empathy and personal connections come first, and then at the end, professional development. I'm reversing it, but I'm doing it on purpose, and I'm going to explain it to you. But let's start first with PEP, right? The first one is professional development and personal growth. Right? Then we're going to get into empathy and compassion, and then we're going to get into personal connections. So remember that. You're putting pep in your step as you learn to care for others. So why did I do it in this order? Because the first and foremost thing that I want you all to remember is that when it comes to caring for others, when it comes to showing even the charisma, right? When it comes to challenging, right? When it comes to the things we've already talked about, the first thing that you want to focus on is what's happening inside you. So when we talk about professional development and personal growth, there are 2 parts to that. There's the part where you're developing yourself, because the truth is when you add value to you, you're able to add more value to others. If your value increases, you can increase the value of others. And so it's critical that you're developing yourself. But how many of you are business leaders inside of larger organizations right now? By show of hands. Okay, we have a few. Are the rest of you entrepreneurs? What's kind of, okay, entrepreneurs. Now that's good. That helps me to know how to carry forward too. But for those of you inside of organizations, helping encourage others grow and develop themselves too. Because then you get into things like multiplying leaders. And when you can replicate yourself, guess what? That helps transformation occur. It helps business growth. It helps the bottom line. People then begin to build that know, like, trust, access factor that we talked about as well. All of that's connected, okay? So let's dive a little bit into personal growth and development. So the first thing is you want to prioritize skill development. What does that mean? So for the entrepreneurs in the room, I have this second bullet point here: pay for professional partnerships and memberships. Right? Important. I know sometimes money is a factor. You get presented with an opportunity, it's going to cost you $5,000 to be involved in this. But what value are you going to get from that thing? I have spent personally probably somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 in the past few years on personal development memberships and programs. Some of the guys that are doing it, guys and gals, are doing it, and they're killing it out there and have millions of followers, 6 figures, just on personal development programs. Extremely essential. Continue to develop yourself. If you're wondering if it's worth it, it is absolutely worth it, because knowing and being able to deliver that value is, in fact, caring. That is part of it. Next one, promote relationships. Right? And so we talk a lot in our circles, especially as entrepreneurs, about networking. Sure, networking is important, but like we've already talked about, relationships, relationships, relationships. Go beyond the network. Call people. Ask them about their families. Look into what's going on. What are their needs, right? Entrepreneurs, when you go to sell a service or sell a product, are you meeting a need that that person has? How well do you know that customer, that client, that target market? Do you know them well enough to know exactly what you have to provide and meet that need that they have? It takes relationships. Because guess what? Every single relationship is unique. Are they not? We are unique people. And as long as we are unique people, we need to understand that others are unique. We're going to have different needs, and we need to know people enough to know how to meet that specific need. Okay? Next one, encourage formal and informal mentoring. So I like to refer to mentoring kind of like a sandwich. Okay? And so here's what I mean. All of us would benefit greatly if we had a mentor, people next to us to lock arms with, and somebody that we are mentoring. And there's something really awesome that occurs as well when you are the person doing the mentoring. When you speak to somebody and you tell them about things that you've been through and things that you're doing, what does that do? There's a measure of accountability. And so remember not to discount the importance of being mentored and being the mentor, because it helps you remain accountable, and it also helps you grow and develop yourself. Remember, it's not just about me, it's also about you. And so in order for you to be better, and for me to help you with that, I have to be better. So there's a flow, right? We are conduits, not cul-de-sacs. I don't know if you ever heard that analogy, right? In a cul-de-sac, you go in, and just a big circle, and it's stuck there. No, conduits, things flow through. Okay? Relationships. I want to speak to you a little bit on that before I flip to the next one. And I'll talk about an example that I used in the organization that I worked. When it comes to producing cost reports, let's put it this way, I work at Cox Automotive as well during the day. And while I'm there, part of my role is to manage a budget for cloud services. And so that's like a $9 million budget now. And you probably, if you've ever worked in an organization, you may have seen like lists of who's spending how much money. And when you put it on a big list and everybody can see it, what's some of the things that start to happen? Anybody want to volunteer that?
It's going to decrease.
Say again?
Start
start to decrease. What are people's interactions with each other start to look like when they see that? They're envious of each other, right? There might be even a little bit of fear. Why is his higher than mine? Maybe some leaders in the organization start saying, why are yours so high? It creates a bit of anxiety. One of the things I did before I started producing that report is I visited, well, this is close to 70 software teams, by the way. I visited every single one and began to build a relationship with leads on every single team. We didn't often talk about just work stuff. We didn't talk about just the reports and cost and all that. We talked about regular stuff. And guess what? When we built the know, like, trust factor that we talked about, I gained access to the information that I needed to produce those reports. And because they trusted me, I could tell them, look, when I put this out there, this is helping us make better decisions when it comes to how we manage our costs and how we move forward. This isn't about making things look worse or better than the next person. And that trust worked. And for years now, we've been able to report back on this without all that crazy stress and worry and fear, right? And so, you always have a person in a group that does, but for the most part, significant improvement in the way those things are delivered. So that's just an example about relationships. So let's dive now into empathy and compassion. And before I get into that, I do want to talk about these things that are behind me, right? Because I think, and there's even one more word that I didn't put on here, another word that ends in Y, that's apathy. Apathy is when you don't care. But we're not here to talk about not caring. This is transformational leadership. We're talking about caring. But just in case, I want to make it known, there are those out there that are apathetic. I know you know them. I know you've experienced them. Nobody in this room is that way. I know that. Next part, sympathy. Okay? Sympathy, I can feel what you're feeling. But that's kind of where it stops. And the way I like to look, you ever seen one of those YouTube videos where the dude, I actually saw one recently, there was a guy that just decided to get on a wheelchair and go down a hill with no brake and no one to stop him or help him. He came and he was riding and he slammed right into a wall. His whole body just went flying. And it's one of those moments where you go, ooh, and you swipe to the next video. That's kind of like sympathy, right? Ow, I feel it, but let's go to the next one. I want to see that. Then you got empathy, right? That's where the action comes in. That's where you actually see it. You think it, you feel it, and you're moved to action. And so let me give you this analogy. This is where I get a little bit more animated, right? So let's imagine I was at a campfire, and there was a campfire burning right here, okay? And I'm standing there, and I'm going back and forth with a friend of mine. We're having a good old time, and all of a sudden my pant leg catches on fire. And now my leg is burning, right? Now, in that moment, right, I want you all to picture this with me. In that moment, I'm not thinking to myself, well, I wonder what I'm going to be doing later today. Man, what, are we going to have hot dogs? Are we going to, no, we ain't there. I'm thinking, my leg is burning. Somebody put it out. You're smacking it. You're looking for water. You're looking for anybody to help you with this leg. Put the fire out. That's all that's running through your mind. Is that not how it is when you're going through things in your life at work, when things get hard? You never had that day where, maybe things didn't go well with your boss or a client, things didn't work out the way you planned? And then you're just beating yourself up, and all you can think about is that thing. Did I mess up? Did I fail? Am I good enough? This is never going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. Somebody with empathy knows that. Somebody with empathy is going to lock arms with you. Remember we talked about the sandwich. You got the mentor, you got the one being mentored, but then there's those people that you go down the aisle with, and you're right there with them. And you fall, guess what? 2 arms, they're lifting you back up. You can't fall easy when you got 2 people on the side. So when it comes to empathy, I need you guys to understand. It's extremely important. Walk with the people. Don't just go, ooh, and switch to the next person. It's easy to do. Right? It's a busy time. Like these things right here are killing us. Yes. But it doesn't have to be that way. All right, so let's do an exercise, and I gotta stop sweating for a minute. We're gonna practice mindfulness. I think in your guide you see that, right? So when we talk about mindfulness, there's three pieces, right? There's the environment, focusing on your environment. What's happening within you being the second one. What you feeling, thinking, that stuff. And then there's the interaction part of it. Right? When we're sitting down with somebody and they're communicating to us, and we're thinking about, okay, how can I be empathetic in this situation? All those things come into play. What is my mood like? If I just got in an argument with my wife back there earlier in the day, and I sit down and have an empathetic conversation, and it might be about something that's related to what we were arguing about, I think that might have an impact. Probably, just a little bit, right? And so we need to be mindful of that. Maybe this is not the time for the conversation. And that's an option too. There may be things that we need to do to center ourselves. Is the environment around us, are we having a real busy day? Right? Have things been crazy and almost seemingly out of control? Right? We just don't feel like we can't get it together. Is that going to impact an empathetic conversation? Absolutely. And then finally, there's the interaction piece. Right? When you're speaking, there's things called triggers. And I'll share this example with you. When I was young, when I dropped something on the floor and I spilled a glass of water, spilled milk, my dad often would come up to me, whack me on the back of the head and say, watch what the beep you're doing. This was like commonplace in our home. And so now I'm married to my wife years later, and I knocked something off the counter. It's just us. Dad's nowhere around. All of a sudden, I'm growling, I'm getting all mad. Just because why are you acting like a little kid? You just spilled something on the floor. And I didn't even know why I was doing it. All I know is it just made me mad. And one day, I caught on to that, right? Like, oh, suddenly I realized there was a trigger there. Every time I drop something on the ground, I'm expecting boom. So guess what? I'm defensive. I'm on guard. I'm waiting. And Christina came up to me and she said, "Hey, Dave, why did you?" Then I get even more mad because I was defensive. I was defending myself. Now keep that in mind when it comes to having a conversation like that. Do those triggers affect you? You ever had a time like that? Maybe it's happened and you didn't even realize that it was a trigger. Maybe having this conversation, the next time it happens, you'll remember, right? Because that's what, when it comes to mindfulness, that's what we need to be thinking about, is those kinds of things. So kind of just pause for a second. Dessert is here, so the sugars are going to come up. Drop it like a bad habit, right? So I just want you to focus on something, anything. I don't even care what it is right now. I just want you to, no phones, no technology, no conversation. You don't have to look at me, you can look anywhere you want, just think to yourself. Focus on something that I want to talk about. What happened? I'll give you just about 30 seconds to a minute. What did you notice? Did you notice anything different? Everybody was quiet. Definitely. What else? Sorry. Peace. Okay. Breathing. Did you smell anything you didn't before?
My thought to myself.
Thought to yourself?
Personal thought.
Yeah, personal. Oh, that's it's simple, right? That's simple. Like, all you gotta do is quiet everything. All of a sudden, you hear your thoughts. Believe it or not, they're there. They are there. Yeah, I know we laugh because sometimes it's like we're so caught up. Wow, we actually have thoughts. Anything else? Okay. I want everyone to close their eyes for a second. Close your eyes. I know it seems weird, but just close your eyes. And I want you just to imagine yourself floating in air, and you are coming down, and you are landing in the arms of the person you love most. And you're just there and you are basking in it. And now I want you to imagine yourself being in your dream location. I don't care where it is. For you, it's your dream. You get to pick. And you all of a sudden you see a bright sunlight shining across the way, and it hits you in the face, and it almost makes you want to squint. But you look over instead, and you see the one you love, and there's just a big old smile on your face. And all you can think is, man, I don't want this moment to end. Go ahead and open your eyes. Now, I saw smiles. Yeah. Now I want you to tell me what you were thinking.
No.
Yeah, you don't tell me what you were
We were in the Highlands of Scotland,
Oh, wow.
and we were looking at the greenery and the mountains and the sheep and everything. It was great.
That sounds amazing. Anyone else want to share?
I was thinking about my mom's being here again, cooking in the kitchen.
Oh, wow. That sounds good. I'm hungry. Anyone else? One more?
I was thinking about how me and my husband will be celebrating 16 years of marriage tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. So notice the difference, right, in how you feel, even in this very moment. What I've given you is just one among many tools that you can use to adjust your environment, your mindset, but all those things we talked about, mindfulness, when it comes to having an empathetic conversation. Sometimes you got to take a pause and do the type of thing that you just did. Because that peace comes, right? That moment you're like, oh my gosh, like you weren't, the first time, I bet some of you were thinking, man, there's people around I ain't even talking about it. I'm not saying anything. But when your eyes are closed and you're focused and you're creating that mental image, all that starts to fade away, doesn't it? When it comes to having empathy, we need to be able to calm ourselves to do this. So let's talk about the three types of empathy. We kind of address some of these things, but we'll break it down a little bit more. There's cognitive, emotional, and compassionate empathy. Cognitive empathy is the part where you actually think it. I'm trying to put myself in their shoes. I'm trying to understand mentally, logically, what would I be thinking? What would be the thoughts running through my head? Right? I'm working with a client. They just told me someone they love passed away. If that was me and I was the client, what would I be thinking? I miss them. I want to go home and be with my family right now. I don't know if I should have signed up for this meeting right now. Right? Like these are some of the thoughts that might be running through their minds. How does that affect the way you communicate? Then we move into the emotional aspect. I'm feeling sadness. I'm feeling pain. I might even be feeling angry. Right? We talk about the 5 stages of grief. People go through that kind of stuff. It's real. And grief ain't just like death and loss. Sometimes the grief process could happen if you had a client and it fell through and you put months into it and it didn't work out. You can go through that grief process and it could take months. It happens. But when you're speaking to somebody and you're trying to understand their point of view, there's the cognitive and the emotional piece. And then that compassion is the part that moves you to action. That's the part where you actually want to offer something or do something that's going to contribute to what's happening or what's being told. I actually want to get real quick, how am I on time, Quinn? 10 minutes. Can I get 2 volunteers real quick? Anybody want to come up here? I have a secondary plan if nobody wants to come. Oh, we got one. Anybody else? Bring the packet, the participant guide. There's a section there on the case study with Casey and Simone. I want to do this to make it a little fun and have interaction, okay? So you got to bring your participant guides. Oh, yeah, that's an important part. So let me just kind of frame it up for you. You can read it there. But Casey is very ambitious. Casey wants to move forward with this organization. She's excited. She's had a lot of success in the past, right? That's going to be Joseph. Joseph, okay? And I have Shannon and Joseph. And you know what? Give them a hand for actually so Joseph's going to play the part of Casey, the ambitious person. He's excited. He wants to help Simone here, who just had her mom. Her mom was sick, and she's been spending a lot of time at work, and she really wants to get home and spend more time. That's ultimately what she's thinking a lot about. So they're going to have a conversation here in front of you. Kind of see your parts in there, right? Oh, no. So we got a case study. You got it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. 39, thank you. There we go. You're playing the part of Casey. Go ahead and observe as they speak to each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Simone, you've been you've done a great job helping implement the live and learn database. What if you take complete ownership of this process?
I don't know. I'm feeling overwhelmed just trying to get my regular job done. I don't see how I can take on anything else. I feel horrible if I let you down.
I don't think you have to worry. You're very capable. What if I sent you to some kind of management training, some type of management training? Would you do that?
I think the extra responsibility would stress me out even more. You know my mom was sick, right?
No, I didn't. No, I'm sorry to hear. I'll be happy to pay for cleaning service or meal service or please.
I appreciate that, but what I really want is to spend time with her, and you're asking me to spend more time.
All right, let's give it up for Shannon. All right, so from that observation, as we went through that exercise, what did you notice when it come to having an empathetic conversation? What did you notice that Casey or Joseph did as Shannon was communicating what she was saying? Soften his stance, okay. Ma'am?
Your voice.
You can tell the tone of the voice changed, yes. What about, let's talk about cognitive, emotional, and compassionate empathy. Did you see any of that?
No compassion.
No compassion?
Casey was too busy concerned about her working and not the mother, really.
Was he hearing, or was she, in this case, was he hearing what she was saying?
No.
He was trying to fix the problem.
He was. So he was hearing words, but was he feeling what she was saying?
No.
He didn't really ask her what she needed in order to be successful
There
in
we
this
go.
position. You know, how can we help you take on this position? Because we feel you'd be good for it. What do you need from us to support you with your mother and your time?
Absolutely. So this is hard, right? This is not an easy thing. This is a skill that takes time. I know, some of you, even myself, right? You think about these types of things and it's like, gosh, how am I supposed to process all it? Like, sometimes if you hadn't been through it, it's particularly hard to put yourself in that person's shoes. So that's what I'm saying, that we have a little grace on yourself when you're doing this, but at the same time, let this be a tool to increase your awareness. When next time you're in that situation, and I promise you will be, we all will, I want you to remember these 3 types of empathy. Because these are the things that are, yes ma'am.
Okay, so I understand you have empathy and the sympathy, but how long do you let that go? How long does you let them ride that out?
That's a good question.
You know,
So
you got a business to run, and you gotta have empathy and sympathy, but sometimes it can go on, and they turn at your coattail, and then you're like, all right, now I gotta run a business. I'm a small business, so when's Mama gonna get well?
To Tarshish's point, we talked about servant leadership in the workshop that she attended and spoke at, right? So as a servant leader, right, which is part of being a transformational leader, our objective is to serve people, serve our clients, right? If we allow, that's why I wanted to get into this, right? Sympathy is kind of like jumping in the pit with them. Are you helping them by sitting in the pit? If you're jumping in a pit of snakes, like, oh, it feels awful in here.
I'll start pulling them up.
Right. Empathy is about the part about pulling them up. So the moment you get to the point where you're in there with them and you're just swimming around in it,
Part of that.
are you really serving them?
You're in the same environment as she is.
Yes, sir.
Just went through that with a consultant that works for me. Lost her mom unexpectedly. And I gave her some time off because I knew what I went through when I lost my mom and my son a couple of years ago. And it got, once it reached a couple of weeks went by, she still got compensated and everything else, but then I drew a line. And I just told her, I said, you know, we've got payroll coming up, we've got this, we've got that. You know I'm not all things. I'm not trying to be everything. If you're gonna scale and grow a business, you have to hire the competent people to assist you in that regard. And she showed up Monday, ready to go to work. So, you know, it's one thing to, you know, and everybody's different. When I was here in Atlanta, for 4 months, I went to work and came home and got in bed with my mom. And it took a co-worker to shake me out of there. So it's, you know, no two people are the same. So you just have to kind of roll with it. And when you get that gut feeling that the line has been, you need it, at that point, you've got to make a business decision. And it's nothing personal.
Thank you for sharing. So I think, you know, this is probably, we don't have time to get into it, but there is sort of a push and pull. Like I felt like you gave a nudge there, and that nudge actually was serving her well. It did serve her well. Right, so that's a whole another conversation, but yes, great story. I have like about 3 minutes maybe-ish left. So let me just kind of wrap up with the personal connections part. And I did want to share a quick story with you about asking for the heart before you ask for the hand. Right? A lot of times we want what they can do, what they can give us, but here's where we start. Okay, and so I'll tell you about this story. I'm originally from the Detroit area, and I worked here. Yes, moved here at the end of 2011. And when I was up there, I worked at an auto auction. It's the same organization as Cox says, a Manheim auto auction specifically. And we were having a management meeting. It was every Monday morning. And what I didn't tell you yet was that Christina was pregnant with our first child, our daughter. Okay, and she was probably 6, 7 months, somewhere in there. And the general manager of the auction announced at the time that we're going to have a special meeting today. There's something special I need to announce. And of course, first thing you're going to do is, what's happening, right? And I noticed one thing is I was the only one that appeared to be surprised. So I thought that was odd, right? Okay, let's carry on with this. And so he said it again about 5 minutes later. Okay, it's time to start. We have a special announcement. And everybody was just talking amongst themselves. And I'm kind of like, does anybody not hear that there's a special announcement? But at that moment, there were double doors that swung open to the conference room. And in came a stroller, packed high full of gifts. And this was for my soon-to-come daughter. I've never had an organization or leaders inside of an organization do something like that for me. So you need to understand, that's why I'm telling you this like a decade later. It had an impact on me, right? When we truly go after the heart, we can change a person for a lifetime. We talk about profits, right? Profits, having a profitable business, that's like the lifeblood, right? If you are impacting lives and you're making a profit, the profit is what keeps you impacting lives, right? But the heart, there's a reason we human beings use this metaphor as a heart. The heart pumps what? The blood. And when the blood is pumping through, it's keeping you alive. So when you pour into the heart, you are literally pouring life into the bloodstream of the person, keeping them like you are speaking life.
Go ahead, sir.
That's what it means. Woo!
That's what I mean.
I think that's my cue.
No. But you see what I mean? You guys see what I mean?
So people don't know, and Jason already said it, I'm just going to reiterate and we'll wrap up with this quote. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. Caring makes you a transformational leader.
We're almost at the end, and you guys can start making notes on the last 2 pages for your action plan. You know, we have one more module, but instead of doing the module myself, the way I would normally do the confidence module, I got a surprise for you guys in the back. But before we jump into that surprise, I want to thank each of my guest trainers. Got a little surprise for each of you, and because he's the man that was holding us up. No, it's a business meeting, so if any guys are finished, just excuse me. He's the person that led us do prayer before each one. So I would say thank you for that. So thank you. I got you something a little different from the other ladies. So here is your Guerreso Consulting Award.